this is going to be my last weekly update video in terms of eating low FODMAP and just an overall, I guess, um, kind of like my overall experience with it. I will make one more video in a couple of weeks, which would be at the 6 week mark since the time that I started eating this way, because over the next 2 weeks, I'm going to be reintroducing um, the FODMAP kind of foods that I have been avoiding slowly, throughout these 2 weeks to see my tolerance levels. And I will just kind of update in 2 weeks as to, what I notice is going on at that point, and if it is still helping me and still working, or if I have gone back into a flare up. The whole reason why I wanted to track this and kind of keep track of my weekly progress throughout it is mainly because I wasn't sure if it was even going to work. I was kind of suspicious of it because my gut was just so out of whack. I didn't think it was going to be an easy change to really, make a difference, I guess, for it. And I can say that it did make a difference. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about some aspects of, going through this whole process and what, um, out of eating the way that I was eating, some foods that I found that I actually really liked. And I thought that I would just talk about them and share them in case anybody maybe comes across these videos and is thinking about, doing the low FODMAP diet to help their digestive system, or, it was recommended that you try it. And um, my experience, like I said, is probably different from other people's, but maybe it can be helpful. And so I was not somebody who ate a whole lot of gluten-free foods. I did eat some, but not like a lot of gluten-free food. And I also wasn't somebody that had a lot of like dairy-free products or anything like that. So this has been um, the longest that I've ever attempted to go gluten-free or dairy-free. And it was very difficult. About 2 weeks in, I started to feel like it maybe was something that I couldn't really maintain for 6 weeks like I initially thought. Um, and at that point, past about 2 weeks, I started to notice improvement in my digestive system, enough to the point where I didn't think that it was going to, you know, be that big of a deal if I couldn't make it the full 6 weeks. So I'm pretty happy that I made it 4 weeks. And right now I did start to introduce some foods like milk, because milk was not really an issue for me before I even started. And so I decided that that would be one that I tried first to reintroduce. And so I did. And I reintroduced some regular like pasta noodles instead of gluten free. And I had a couple of pieces of just white bread. And um, that has been what I've tried so far. And so far, I am tolerating those things okay. I did notice a slight amount of bloating when I reintroduced some of the foods, but it didn't cause me to go back into like a flare up of any kind, or, something like that. So that has been good. But it was hard for me to find gluten-free foods that were actually good, that I found to be, um, taste-wise good, and, quality-wise good. And so I just thought that I would share a couple of my favorite things out of all the things that I tried. I found a couple that I really liked. And so the first one is these noodles. I will probably continue eating these, even though I'm going back to eating, um, how I was prior to going gluten free, because I feel like these really helped in calming down my gut, in terms of eliminating some of the FODMAPs that I was eating prior to, trying to eat this way. And you really cannot tell the difference at all between these noodles and regular noodles. They taste the same to me, at least. A lot of the other gluten-free noodles that I tried, pretty much all of them that I tried besides this one, I didn't like because they either had a weird taste that I didn't like, or they smelled really bad when they were cooking. And it just kind of threw me off, and wasn't really used to that. But these are the closest thing to, regular noodles that I found, and I don't notice a difference between, like I said, between these and regular noodles. So these are really good if you're somebody that doesn't really know, because you don't eat gluten-free usually like I was. These are good. And then I was looking for some kind of a snack to have that I could just eat a little bit if I felt like I needed a little bit of sugar or something, because I was avoiding a lot of sugar as I was going through this process to just, not irritate my gut, I guess. And so I found these. They are Partake vanilla wafer crunchy cookies. They're really not crunchy. I mean, they are crunchy, but they're not like really, crunchy cookies. They kind of melt in your mouth a little bit. They are very, very good. I like these a lot. They're not too sweet, and they are crumbly. So half of the package was crumbled and broken in half, but it really didn't matter, to me, I guess. But I was very surprised. They are gluten-free, peanut-free, allergy-friendly. And the thing that I will say about these is that I got these about 2 weeks into eating this way. And I had the serving size recommended is 8 cookies. And I think I had about maybe somewhere around like 6 or 7 of them. And shortly after, my stomach did feel upset, and I did feel like I had to go to the bathroom. I didn't, but I felt like I had to. And I could just feel that there was something that was irritating in here. So I tried to research it a little bit more, and I found that um, tapioca fiber syrup is actually a FODMAP food. And so I kind of attributed, my reaction to probably the fact that that was in here. Um, but now that I'm at the 4 week mark, I avoided these after that, so I did not have these anymore. I decided to try these again yesterday, just to see where I was at, tolerance wise, and if it was going to give me the same reaction that it gave me a couple weeks ago. And I did not just eat 8 of them. I probably ate half of this box. I was really hungry, felt like my blood sugar was just kind of low, and I felt like, if you've ever felt that feeling, you feel like you need to eat and you need to eat sugar. And so I think that that was kind of the reason why I had so much. But I was worried after eating that much that I was going to have the same experience that I had a couple weeks ago or worse, and I didn't. So if, you're looking for a good snack that I don't know if these are necessarily FODMAP friendly, because I did have a reaction, after eating them. But if you're looking for just a good gluten-free or allergen-friendly snack and you've never had these before, and you like they reminded me almost of like a shortbread cookie, but just a really good texture and a really good taste, I thought. So this is a really delicious snack. So I this past week have noticed that every week that has gone by, my digestive system has gotten better and better in terms of functioning to the point of being in the place that it was before my flare up. And my flare up lasted over 2 months. And so right now, at 4 weeks in, I feel like it has, returned back to, and when I say returned back to a good place or normal, my digestive system is not normal. So it is nowhere near functioning or normal as it is, but the flare up that I was in was just constant diarrhea for over 2 months, and there was no end in sight. And so, in that regard, that is completely resolved. There is none of that anymore. Um, so, for me personally, in terms of my normal, in terms of my functioning in relation to like my digestive system, this has resolved my issue that I hoped to be resolved at the start of all of this. And so I just wanted to give my overall, you know, ending, um, I guess, thoughts and experience with what it was like for me. Um, and like I said, I have reintroduced milk at this point, and I have tried to eat some white bread. That kind of at first was seemed like it might be a little triggering to me, but um, after the first couple of days, it seemed like it was something that I was getting used to again. And then I also um, decided to add this back in, which is just not gluten free, but it is organic pasta with white cheddar. And when it comes to dairy, I can tolerate milk pretty well, but I'm not very good sometimes with tolerating cheese, especially aged cheeses like Parmesan or aged cheddar. Um, I think usually because of the histamine content. And I think particularly in this, the cultured pasteurized milk kind of was an issue for me. Anything cultured and anything fermented really seems to cause issues for me histamine wise. And so I had a little bit of a reaction to eating this, and I will share a picture of my tongue here and what that looked like for me. And so that isn't necessarily just because of what I eat. Sometimes that will happen to me. It's called geographic tongue, I'm pretty sure. And you can get that for a number of different reasons. For me, it usually happens due to hormonal shifts um, right before my menstrual cycle. If I'm very stressed out, or if I eat foods that really irritate my mouth. And so this, for some reason, I think was one of those because of the cultured aspect in it. Right after I ate it, I felt really, really good. But then I would say about an hour later, my tongue started to tingle, and that is what happened to me. I have been very stressed out watching the news and watching everything that is kind of, going on right now, and just feeling really triggered by a lot of things. And it's been hard to process it all. And I think that that also played into that whole reaction as well. My allergist prescribed me a lidocaine mouthwash so that I'm able to, have a little bit more comfort when I eat. But my concern is that I'm not really as concerned about pain necessarily or discomfort. I am more concerned about the root cause of why this is happening in the first place, and how to kind of resolve that so that I don't keep having, reactions like that. And so I um, would say, if you're somebody who is thinking about doing this diet and this way of eating, that for me at least, it has helped me a lot. It made a huge difference. I hope I never have to do it again. It is not fun at all. It's really hard. I didn't think it was going to be this hard when I went into eating like this. I thought, I can do this for like 6 weeks. It's not that big of a deal. But after about 2 weeks, I started to notice, yeah, it really is. For me, it was really hard to continue on. And I think it's just sad right now overall. I realize how blessed I am to be able to even make these changes to try to help, my body feel better and heal, because I know that there's a lot of people who experience these issues and they're not able to, with the way that grocery prices are and the way that food is, they're not able to make these changes and try to, help their health or anything like that. And that is really disheartening to think about. And, one of the things that I kept thinking about as I was going through this and getting these foods and all of that was just the price of food in general is really expensive right now. But when you look at like gluten free and dairy free, and if you have to eat more meat or something like that, um, it is not really doable for a lot of people, and especially over a long term period of time. And I think it's just really disheartening and sad for people who have chronic health issues or dietary restrictions or allergies that need to follow, specific diets, and the amount of planning and thought that would have to go into it in order to figure out a way to eat and still be able to afford it. For a lot of people, I think it's really disheartening and it's really sad. And, I keep seeing these things in the news and everything about making America healthy again and how we should change our diets to, you know, this kind of way of eating, or, eat these foods instead. And I think that that's really great. And I think that that's something that should happen. But I think that these people are just ignorant because they do not understand, or if they do, they don't care, that that is not something that is reasonable, or like is you cannot do that on, with the way that the economy is and the way that the prices are for living right now. And I just don't see how they think that that's something that's going to be something that most Americans can really do. um, I shouldn't say most Americans, but I think a lot. So I just think that it's frustrating overall to see everything, the way that it is right now. But I just thought that I would give my overall thoughts on it and my experience with this whole journey for the last 4 weeks. And that is it for this one. And then I will make one more in a couple of weeks after I reintroduce, like, I'm going to try to reintroduce apples and mangoes and um, garlic and onion. And I think that those are the main triggers for me. So it should be interesting how my body reacts to that. And then I should be back into a place where I am eating pretty much how I was before. And as far as the cromolyn sodium is concerned, I am now at 4 doses a day, which is the maximum amount that I was prescribed. Um, and so that has been going well for me as well. And I'm really proud of myself that I made it to this point in this place, because I was really hoping that I could, to see the difference that it ends up making for me. So I think in about 2 or 3 weeks, I should have a better understanding of, once that it is really, in my system and everything, to see the difference it ends up making. But so far, I do notice there are small improvements that are happening. And so I'm hopeful that that is something that just continues to get better. So I wanted to share that journey as well, because I have a lot of anxiety over, new medications. And I know a lot of other people with mast cell activation disorder also have anxiety when it comes to introducing anything really new or different. And I saw a lot of people sharing their experiences where it didn't work out, and some people saying it made a huge difference for them, and it did. So I just wanted to share my own personal, experience, and add my voice and my experience to it. And for me, it started off kind of I almost backed out of it because I was experiencing some issues at first, but I'm glad that I stuck with it. And so far, it seems to be pretty good. So, overall, that is my week 4 update for the cromolyn and the low FODMAP, and that is the end of my weekly update journey with it all. So I hope that it's somewhere out there it can be helpful to somebody